Hey everyone, Clay here. Just wanted to let you know I've got a new comic book out right now from Comixology Originals and Amazon. It's called Hardstyle Juice. It's a professional wrestling murder mystery, so if you're into pro wrestling and comics and all that good stuff, you're going to want to check it out. And it's free to read if you have Amazon Prime. It's a digital-only comic. If you want to check it out, head over to hardstylejuice.com, and that'll direct you right to the page where you can check it out. That's hardstylejuice.com. Thanks, guys. Hello, welcome once again to the Rotten Horror Picture Show, the horror movie podcast where we talk about films off the Rotten Tomatoes 200 Best Horror Movies of All Time list. My name is Clay, and with me as always, I think I can't see her, is Amanda. Amanda, is that you? Are you here? I have a gun. And
now that's a terrifying image.
I could have chosen something else, but
oh God, okay.
Thankfully,
yeah. All right.
Thankfully, no.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. How you doing?
Do I now have to thank every man I meet for not doing that?
I was actually going to ask you about this last time. Have you heard the bear thing? Where it was a big thing for like a week, where someone had posed a question to a woman saying, if you were alone in the woods...
yes. I thought you meant the FX TV show, The
No.
Bear.
I mean, maybe. That too.
Like, what did Carmi do?
Yeah.
He seems so sweet.
But if you were, as a woman, were alone in the woods, would you rather run into a bear or a man?
The bear.
Yeah, that's what everybody said. It made a lot of men specifically very upset.
Yeah. Is this like the Roman Empire thing?
Where
there was a joke about women asking the men in their lives, are you thinking about, or have you thought about, or it was like,
how often do you think about the Roman Empire?
Yeah, and then they get mad when they say, oh, like yesterday, and you laugh at them.
That's, I was vaguely aware of that, but only, like, I don't understand that at all.
I deeply offended my husband, but with it, so.
I could not tell you the last time I thought about the Roman Empire.
You're a good man, Charlie Brown. I still would rather, if I didn't
The
know
Ottoman
you,
Empire, on the other hand.
And if I didn't know you, I would still rather run into the bear.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
If I didn't know me, I'd rather run into the bear.
If a man of your stature appeared in the woods and I was alone, I'd be like, please, God, just transform him into a bear. I would rather that than whatever is about to happen to me.
It's only like a marginal amount of hair being added. We're both equally sleepy and hungry.
Aw.
But that has nothing to do with anything. Long story short, yes, you should be thankful, apparently.
Yes.
Anyway, we are talking about Don't Breathe from 2016. This is number 94 on our list. It has an 88% Rotten Tomato score with a 79% audience score. Had you seen this before?
No. I was completely new and fresh to this one, so I didn't really know what I was getting into other than... kind of some sort of take on a home invasion story.
Yeah, this one for me was one that I didn't see when it came out because I think it was kind of... I was, at this time, close to 10 years ago now.
Jesus.
I was a different person.
Were you really?
Well, like, literally. Isn't it like every 10 years your cells rotate over, so you're literally a new person every 10 years?
Are we all just the ship of Theseus? Is that what you're
yes,
saying?
I think that's the point.
Cool.
I think... Yeah, technically, yes.
Nice.
But at that time, I was a lot more skeptical of modern horror movies than I would say I am now.
Okay.
I feel like now I'm still skeptical, but I'm willing to give a lot more of them a chance.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I didn't give this one a chance, because it's directed by the guy who did the remake of Evil Dead, which is pretty solid. Produced by Sam Raimi and Rob Tappert and that whole crew.
Two of your faves.
One of my faves.
One of your faves.
And yeah, I was just like, I don't know.
This one, I don't even remember really hearing about this one when it came out.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it crept back into the zeitgeist of horror movie fans a little later.
Well, I think it did okay when it came out, but it's definitely one that has word of mouth built into it, because the way I saw it originally was a friend of mine said, "Have you seen Don't Breathe?" And I was like, "No, I didn't really look very good." And he's like, "Dude, unbelievable." He said it's the best movie-going experience he's ever had, like in a crowded theater.
Oh,
yeah, he said it was amazing, which I can see.
I can see that. There are some moments in this movie where I can imagine if you're in a big crowd and everybody's watching it fresh, the reactions must have really been something.
Yeah, movies like this are great for that. My greatest movie-going experience, I can say now because I don't think we're ever going to talk about it on the show, was opening night, like a 1 a.m. show, packed house, 42nd Street, Final Destination 2. It was awesome. That whole opening sequence on the road, like that just set the whole time. So the whole movie, now after that opening sequence that just like leveled everybody, every single setup starts going in, and you hear like people start to murmur.
Yeah,
it's like, oh shit, here it comes. Oh my god, like it gets loud. You can feel the tension rising.
There's one person who just starts yelling at the screen.
Yeah, well, like they're trying to hold it back, and then like when whatever happens and a guy blows up or whatever, the place went off like the home team just scored the winning goal. It was awesome.
That sounds amazing.
But I imagine this is probably a really good one to see in the theater. Kind of similar to what's that movie? It's on the list. Very high.
Gonna have to give
Quiet Place.
Yeah. In terms of movie going experience.
Yeah, that's what they should have done with the sequel. It should have been the same idea, but with like 15 blind guys.
The old man has cloned himself, and now there's just 10 of him all running around.
Yes.
Yeah.
It could happen. Anyway, we're going to play the trailer for you real quick, and we'll be back to talk about it.
Your lips look sore. That's how you're making your cash out there?
What do you say you and I move away from Mom together? It's a promise.
You're leaving?
Yeah, as soon as I have the money.
When are you coming back?
Never.
Yo, I got our ticket out of here. Rumor is this guy is sitting on at least $300K. Boom!
That's our guy.
Wait, is he blind?
We messed up to rob a blind guy, isn't it?
Just because he's blind don't mean he's insane, bro.
Guys, money's probably in there.
Who's there?
Stay right there.
How many of you are there?
It's just me, man, all right? Just let me go, please. Okay, I swear to God.
Now you're gonna see what I see.
Okay, Don't Breathe from 2016, directed by Fede Alvarez, written by Fede Alvarez and, it's a tough one, Rodo Sayagas. Can you pronounce Sayagues? How would you pronounce that?
Sayagues?
Sure. Close enough.
Sayagues?
Sounds good to me.
I don't know.
He's not
I'm probably
listening.
wrong, too.
Starring the bad guy from Avatar, the girl from Evil Dead, the kid from Let Me In, the other priest from The Pope's Exorcist, which is the one that really got me.
Oh, shit. That's where he's from.
That's money.
Wow.
Is the young priest from The Pope's Exorcist.
Wow, I would not have thought that. That's great.
And some pretty disgusting props.
Yeah.
Amanda, what happens in Don't Breathe?
Rocky, Alex, and Money are 3 Detroit thieves who get their kicks by breaking into the houses of wealthy people. Money gets word about a blind veteran who won a major cash settlement following the death of his only child. Figuring he's an easy target, the trio invades the man's secluded home in an abandoned neighborhood. Finding themselves trapped inside, the young intruders must fight for their lives after making a shocking discovery about their supposedly helpless victim.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, Clay, some things you'll find in Don't Breathe include... Oops.
That was a nice
Dum.
Hans Zimmer stinger you added there.
Quote, a big-ass sediment.
Yes.
You
money.
know how those big-ass sediments are.
Yeah. You get whole magazines dedicated to those.
Pup-up face.
Pop-up faces. Well, technically one. Although it happens quite a few times.
One pup. Well, one face, many pups.
Technically there were 3 dogs playing that one dog.
Aww.
So
Pup-up faces.
Pup-up faces.
Feminist icon Money.
Yes. Does one good thing in his life and he gets shot for it.
That's my bitch in there, Clay. The only touchscreen gloves that actually work.
Yeah, that was like the modern version of In The Departed when Matt Damon has his hand in his pocket and he's typing perfectly, text messaging Alec Baldwin or whoever it is, or Jack Nicholson.
Yes.
There's no way in hell.
It's like the least realistic thing in this movie.
Yes.
Using another guy's crush on your girlfriend as leverage.
Always works.
You sound very practiced in this.
No. Yeah, because it's worked on me.
Yes, you're the guy.
Yes.
Tool foreshadowing.
Yeah, that was a pretty good tool. The hammer didn't play as big a role as I expected it to, given the the glory shot that it got.
Yes.
But it was pretty good.
Batman villain knockout gas.
Yeah, I was really surprised when he just sets up like...
Yeah, when he becomes like an amateur chemist and has like kooky gear to make people pass out.
Yeah, and he brought multiple empty soda bottles with him.
Yes.
Specifically for gas-related purposes.
Escape foiled by stinky feet.
Yes.
Or poor foot hygiene, if you will.
Yeah. There is a certain point where they decide that this guy is basically Daredevil.
Yes.
For a couple scenes.
Yeah. It's I want to talk a little bit about
sometimes
that
he's helpless.
Sometimes he's a superhero.
He can identify 2 sets of shoes by the smell.
Yes. And questionable / just plain bad parenting.
Yeah, I'd say it's bad.
I'd say it's just bad.
Yeah.
I mean, Alex's dad seems like he's not a bad guy.
That's true. He's not in the movie, right?
He's not in the movie, but the implication is sort of that he is holding down a steady job and is a little more responsible as a parent. Like I think Alex even has a throwaway line where he talks about not wanting to leave with Rocky when she goes to California because he doesn't want to leave his dad.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, all right, one parent who's probably okay.
I have a theory that if they had a scene with his dad, Alex probably doesn't die. Because there's just something really grounding about doing a scene with someone's parents that it's like, well, now you can't kill them.
Well, especially if their parents are decent.
Yeah.
As opposed to Rocky's shitty mom and her shitty boyfriend.
Situation, we'll say.
Yeah.
Anyway, don't breathe. That's a rule. Nobody breathe for the rest of this episode.
Good night, folks.
This is movie number 2 in the unofficial, quote, wow, Detroit is so awful we should set a horror movie there trilogy with It Follows and Barbarian, which I believe are both on the list. So we'll we'll cap that off eventually.
I'm excited to watch those.
As I said, it's produced by Sam Raimi and Rob Tappert. It was the follow-up to Evil Dead, and it is sort of a... have you ever seen Wait Until Dark?
No.
This is basically reverse Wait Until Dark, where in Wait Until Dark, Audrey Hepburn plays a blind woman. and her
Okay.
house gets broken into. And she's
Okay.
she's the main character.
Yes.
And so
Yes, and the blind person. Yeah.
yes. And
Yes.
Colonel Troutman from Rambo breaks into her house with I think it's him and a couple other people. And so a lot of it is like this movie, but from the point of view of the blind person. So it's
Sure.
like she doesn't know that there's someone like standing right here, and like that's where the so it's a really great concept, I guess.
Yeah.
Fede Alvarez said he did this as a follow-up to Evil Dead because one of the criticisms he got from Evil Dead was that it was too bloody. It was not original, like it was based on something else,
Oh.
and supernatural stuff was kind of played out. And so he wrote this specifically so it's not really, it's pretty bloody, but it's not as bloody as Evil Dead.
There's blood, but it could be way worse.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's it's a fairly grounded story, no supernatural powers for the most part. And it's a wholly original story. So
Yeah. But like, I'm sorry. What criticism to give like an Evil Dead remake?
Yes.
Did you know what movie you were going to watch? Anyway,
Yeah.
we can talk about this actual movie.
I'm going to start off hearing what you thought about it in general, but I do have a question because I was wondering this, and listener Kyle also mentioned this as well.
If it has anything to do with the turkey baster, I'm leaving this room.
No. If we let Kyle leave comments, almost guarantee there would be something disgusting that I would have to read, or probably make you read. But
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate the care and consideration.
in retrospect, or I should say, did you think that opening shot where he's dragging her down the middle of the road, did you feel like that ruined anything in the movie, or did it not really play into anything until much later?
It kind of ruined things a little for me.
It's a weird way to start it.
So it's tough because when I turned on the movie and when we started watching it, I actually really liked that shot. Like I love it as an opening, like taken by itself.
Yeah.
It's a really kind of interesting way to just kick you into the movie really quickly, and it raises all these questions like right off the bat of who is this guy and what the fuck is happening here, and it's kind of eerily beautiful. And it gives you all this like he's just dragging this young woman down the street, nobody is coming out to help her, nobody's around. Wait a minute, are all these buildings empty? Like it sort of dumps you into the world in a really interesting way, and it looks really cool. But it also told me right off the bat that I'm gonna end up rooting for Rocky. You know?
Did you recognize that was her?
Yes.
You did. Okay.
Yeah, she's the only blonde woman in the movie.
Well, my memory of it,
Yeah.
I didn't remember that opening shot, but I did remember that there was a girl in the basement. And so when I was watching it, I couldn't, like, on TV, I feel like it was small enough and they don't get close enough that you can identify that as Jane Levy, the actress.
Sure.
And so part of my thinking was, oh, is that the other girl? Which would make a little more sense, but I mean, well, whatever. But,
yeah.
But yeah, so if you spotted that right away,
Yeah.
that does kind of...
Yeah, it sort of just tips you off that no matter what kind of bad and dumb shit she's doing in the first half, something is going to go very, very wrong for her.
Yeah.
And that results in, like, this man assaulting and potentially kidnapping or killing her. And so your alliance sort of naturally starts to shift to her right away, even when she's being a piece of shit.
Yeah. It's a weird shot to start the movie with.
Yeah.
I think there's probably... I don't know. Maybe there's a different way they could have shot it so it's not so evidently her.
Yeah.
I
think that would have been more interesting.
Yeah.
If the implication had just been that it's our excuse me, that it's some guy dragging some woman down the street, like,
as you do.
Yeah, normal Tuesday night.
Yeah.
That would have then led to a lot more questions of like, what is going on here? And then, you could have played it into like, oh shit, is this guy a serial killer? Has he been doing this to multiple women? Is it the woman that they find in the basement? Is it something else going on? But it, like, I don't know. It was kind of clearly Rocky.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh, well, all right.
Yes.
Like, I don't like you in your first several scenes, but I also know I'm going to end up kind of rooting for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think of it overall?
I mean, overall, I thought it was really well done. I do sort of wish that initial opening scene was different, so that it could have preserved a little bit more of the sort of twist that they were going to go from, you know, the tradition of like they go from the hunter to the hunted. But I was surprised at how good this movie is at walking a line between having people be kind of shitty and you still don't want them to die.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I feel like is a complaint I have very often about lots of slasher movies and things that we've watched where it's like, these characters suck. They seem like bad people and they're really annoying and sort of jerks. And so when you see them get hurt or killed, it doesn't have the same emotional impact. I think this movie does a good job of still maintaining that emotional impact.
Yes.
Like
yeah.
they feel like kind of, especially like Money, feels like kind of a jerk. But also, he's not bad enough that when he's in peril, you're like, just who cares?
Right,
He's a piece of shit. Like, yeah.
I don't know how much do I want to get into this now. So I'll wait because I do have thoughts about this because this is my. I don't know if I'd call it it's not a hang up, but I do find it very interesting the way it walks that line.
Yeah, I think that's going to be like, as we talk about this movie, I think it's going to be something we come back to again and again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the setup is really good. I think
I think they keep it pretty simple.
Yeah.
Which is impressive. Like this is the kind of movie that I think could very easily get too convoluted and too bogged down in like family dynamics and situation stuff and are the police coming and do they accidentally actually trip the security company and does a security guard show up? Like they could have introduced so many extraneous elements and they didn't. They keep it pretty lean. Yeah. They give you more well, you know, I don't know. Maybe we should just get into it because so the thing for me with this one is, which I don't know if this is a criticism, but I do find it interesting because it does walk this line in an interesting way that I think relies on the popular reading of horror movies to make you root for someone who maybe you shouldn't be rooting for so much because like they go out of their way to establish Alex as kind of a good guy. Yeah. You know, as good as one can be in this situation. And also Rocky is it's sort of this crook with a heart of gold thing where she's trying to get enough money to get her sister out of there and all that kind of stuff. Money is just a shithead. Yeah. But a relatively harmless shithead.
Yeah, for the most part.
He never... a lesser version of this movie would have him be like the abusive boyfriend or the cheating boyfriend or he'd punch Alex. Yeah. You know, like
he comes pretty close to doing that.
He does, but he comes close to it, but he doesn't do it.
Yeah.
And there's something sort of like hapless about him. Like he seems like he's trying too hard to seem hard. And so it kind of builds in a little bit of like, all right, he's a shithead, but he also is kind of just a goof.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, the way he brings a gun makes sense to him. Yes. But Alex, it's funny how Alex knows all like the
right. Like Money keeps calling him like Judge Judy and stuff like that because he knows he's like clearly studied all the laws and is trying to encourage them to do, like, if they're going to do this, to do it in the quote unquote safest way possible.
Yes. Yeah. But it's interesting because the thing is, like, they break into this guy's house and you're not really, the way that these movies work, the blind guy is ostensibly the monster. And so you need to they need to make sure that you're not rooting for the blind guy.
I think they need to make sure of that eventually.
Yeah, the way it starts, he's a lot more sympathetic when it first starts.
Yeah, he seems like this sort of sad loner who's been injured and he's lost his daughter and he lives alone in this like urban wasteland area outside of Detroit with like just his dog for security. Yeah. And it seems like they're coming into his home and they're victimizing him and he's like comparatively helpless because he's blind. I think the thing that's interesting me is that
there is no real morality built into this movie because traditionally but at the same, I don't know, it's hard for me to wrangle my thoughts here because the interesting thing I find about it is they present this guy as sort of not hapless, but like, vulnerable.
Yeah.
Even though they've set him up as like a Iraqi war veteran.
Yeah, Gulf War vet, blah, blah, blah.
And then at a certain point, it's like, okay, he's killed money, so he means business.
Yes.
And then relatively quickly, faster than I remembered, I thought all the stuff with the girl in the basement came a lot later. That happens pretty quick.
Yeah.
That they find out that he's got this girl in the basement.
Yes.
And you obviously don't know the extent of it until later. But,
yeah. But yeah, a girl muzzled and chained up in the basement is enough.
Yes.
Like in the moment where you discover it, it's definitely enough to make you as the audience member go, oh shit, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't be rooting for the blind guy.
Yeah. And they are coming up with these things which are designed to show you that the burglars are in over their head, but also to take your sympathies away from the blind guy.
Yeah.
It's because once, there's a girl in the basement, he's killed one of them already.
And killed one of them when he didn't have to.
Right. Yes. And then that's not even to get to the impregnation stuff later. It's like, okay, this guy's really fucked up. But it's so interesting to me because like it does all this stuff to make sure that you are rooting for the criminals to escape. And like, I think the traditional moral outcome of this is that none of the criminals get out alive. Which almost apparently did happen. Apparently, the original ending is that it ends with Rocky in the basement.
Ugh.
But people were like, "No, that's too much.
That's too dark. That's too dark."
But like that's what I mean. Like, there's no traditional horror movie morality built into it. Because, like, as I was saying as we were watching it, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I find it interesting. I think another version of this movie. Excuse me. Alex doesn't die. He at least doesn't die, and also possibly might be the main character.
Sure.
Because he's the most innocent of the group.
Yeah. I mean, so I will argue that I actually at times feel like this movie does a little bit too much to try to make the criminals, especially Rocky, seem sympathetic.
Yeah.
And a little too much to make the blind guy, as we're calling him,
that's kind of
like a monster. Like I kind of wish they took one thing away. Yeah. Because you get this sort of awkwardly placed monologue early in the movie where Rocky, before they break into his house, like they sort of, you see their initial break in of that first fancy house where they're just being like absolute dickheads. And then they kind of have the plan and the back and forth, and you get a glimpse into Alex's life and a glimpse into Rocky's life. And then they're casing the blind man's house, and Rocky's gotten a ladybug tattoo. And she goes into this monologue about how her father left when she was young and her mother started drinking, and she'd lock her in the trunk, and one time a ladybug flew in to keep her company. And it's sort of like, okay, now we've got Rocky is doing this to get the money to get her sister out of this really bad family situation. Yeah. And Rocky herself was abused. And okay, so that's made her way more sympathetic. Yeah. Like, those are the classic trappings of like, this is your protagonist. She might be doing bad things, but she has a good reason for doing them. Yeah. She's ostensibly Marion Crane. Yeah. Yes. To a certain extent. Yes, absolutely. I think that's a really good comparison. Yeah, and then you get the blind guy who starts off seeming like a victim of this organized crime that they're perpetrating, and then you find out, well, he's very willing to murder a man. Like, he's just straight up going to shoot this guy in the face. Yeah. And then also he's kidnapped this woman, and then also he's impregnated her and is forcing her to bear him a child. Yeah. In some sort of sick, like, compensation fantasy. And so it like, I wish they took one of these things out. Yes. Like, I wish either he was just a dude who was kind of, once they broke into his house, was just like, fuck you, the gloves are off, I'm going to kill you all because I am a war veteran and I don't have respect for human life or whatever. Or maybe keep that stuff but take away the, like, Rocky's doing this to save her sister. Yeah. You know, just like let her be kind of a greedy, immature criminal at the beginning. Yeah. And then maybe let this experience change her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause the money thing is the thing that catches me in an
The
interesting
literal
way.
money or feminist icon money.
The literal money. Because like at a certain point, like she never takes her eyes off the cash.
Yes.
And that ends up getting multiple people killed.
Well, I have a note about that because initially you kind of get it when like they're sort of riding high. They've done these other jobs and everything's gone well.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been making money off of it. But then as everything in the house keeps getting worse, she keeps sticking with the money.
Yeah.
Like even towards the very end there where Alex has rescued her from the fucking harness atrocity in the basement, and they think they've locked him in the handcuff. And he says, just take what you want and get out of my house. She's like, and Alex is saying to Rocky, we need to call the police.
Yeah.
Like we need to call the cops. They will not care that we were here. Like we have to do something about this. And she's like, but then we don't get to keep the money.
Right.
And it's like, oh, okay, but at some point, Rocky, you will take enough risks that you end up dead. And
Yes.
then who looks out for your sister?
Yeah.
Like, if this is really about doing it for your sister, like, at what point do you kind of have the moment where you think her life is going to be better with me in it and no money than with both no money and no me?
Right.
Like, after a while, I start to kind of question her motivation. Like, is it really for your sister or is it really just for you?
Yeah, and I mean that's Alex ends up getting killed.
Yeah.
Because she can't let the money go.
Yep.
And so I think
even the fact that her boyfriend's name is Money.
Yes.
It's like very heavy-handed symbolism that she's literally in love with money.
Well, if Alex had just told her that his first and middle name was Alexander Hamilton, maybe she would have been in love with him as well.
Yeah. We'll never know.
His last name is Cash. But yeah, like when you get to the end of the movie, and there's like even the ending has this weird amoral tone to it, where it's like it is ostensibly a happy ending because she gets out with the money and her sister.
Yep.
But also, the blind guy
man,
doesn't really pay any price.
Right. He loses some of his money.
Yeah.
And that's it.
He doesn't die. He's still alive.
Right.
Which I think would be more effective if there was some possibility that he might find her. But
right.
Like, it's not like he's alive and he's going to come after her because he's
no.
clearly not going anywhere.
Well, yeah, and it's clear that she specifically was not his priority. Like, he has a very clear plan of what he wants to accomplish, which is to replace his daughter. And why would he follow her all the way to California from Detroit to do that? Like, it's just not.
And you could look at it another way too, that the fact that he survived, and on the news they're like, yeah, he got robbed, and like there's no mention of the shit in the basement.
Yep.
And she just kind of like sees it and then fucks off.
Yes.
He's probably going to do it again.
Yep. Yeah.
And so she's now
she's allowing it. She's choosing the selfish thing.
Yeah.
Whether it's selfish just for her own sake or for her and her I keep almost saying her daughter, her sister's sake. Yeah, so it is this weirdly amoral ending.
And I'm not saying it needs to be moral or anything.
No.
But I feel like, especially once you get into the 80s, this sort of conservative morality gets placed on top of these movies. So that's where all of your tropes end up. We talked about this at length in the Friday the 13th series, which you can listen to on Patreon.
Good plug.
But like, so you end up getting built into the formula is this sort of like level of comeuppance.
Yeah.
Where, you're the person who does something bad in the movie ends up getting something bad done to them and has to pay the price for it. And the killer ends up dying or being destroyed at the end, and the pure person is the one who makes it out alive. And they just throw all of those rules out the window.
Yeah, which is kind of great.
It is,
in a way, it's really interesting, and it makes this movie, despite the fact that it is on its face following a pretty standard horror movie trope of home invasion movies, it makes this one stand out.
Yeah.
By having such an interesting sort of gray morality of like, we're not taking anybody's side exactly. Like, it is clear that this movie is sort of leading the audience toward rooting for Rocky just because anything she's doing is not as bad as what the blind man is doing.
Yeah.
Trying to steal money from somebody is very different than holding a young woman hostage in your basement for an undetermined amount of time and forcibly impregnating her. One of those things, like, your insurance will cover, and the other one, it will not.
Yeah. I wonder, this movie is like an hour and 28 minutes, so it's very tight. But I almost think it's like 10 minutes too long. Like, when she gets out of the house, and I'm very on the fence about it because I've probably talked about this. My storytelling OCD thing is like, I get really triggered when people go back with unnecessary movement.
Yes. Yeah.
And so when she gets out of the house and gets to the car and then gets pulled back into the house, I'm like, okay, I feel like we don't need this.
Well, it's also because that already happens earlier in the movie with Alex, where Alex sort of gets to a point where Money and Rocky want to keep going, and he's like, nope, you know what? No, I'm done. I'm out. And he leaves the house.
Yeah.
And he's leaving. And then the gunshot happens. And so he goes back in because he's worried about Rocky. And that's how they end up in separate, like, closets in the house texting each other with their touchscreen gloves.
Yes.
So it's kind of weird to have, like, him leave and come back and then have her leave and be dragged back.
Yeah. And I know what they're doing. It's like, oh, she's out of the house. She made it to the car. She subdued the dog. Now all she needs to do, oh shit, he got her. He pulled back.
Right.
I just think it's like too much distance.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah, I feel like it sort of feels like they just wanted to work in a way to remind you that she'd been abused by her mother and locked in the trunk of the car.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
That's all I could think about is like, wow, this sequence with the dog and locking the dog in the car and her special knowledge of how car trunks work is like a little ham-handed. Like, it's a little ham-fisted to sort of emphasize, like, well, she's had such a horrible life. Can you really blame her for doing this? It's really not. She's not as bad as she seems because she's been through all these things.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about that.
Yeah,
I just thought it was another tension moment where it's like, you stretch the elastic band and then it snaps you back on.
No, see, for me, it was like there was the trunk thing with the dog, and then when he does get her back in the house, she sees a ladybug.
That, yes.
And I was just like, come on. Like, this is a little...
See, yeah, that's the thing. Is like,
we don't need all of this.
The ladybug thing is like... It feels weird putting that onto a character who is ostensibly a selfish... selfish by proxy or something, where it's like...
Well, yeah, and I understand, like, emphasizing her difficult upbringing and the abuse she suffered at her own mother's hands... makes sense to me because it's kind of saying, how can anyone have what we would consider like the quote unquote correct morals when they have lived and been raised their whole life in this world that doesn't have those morals?
Right.
Like, the people around her are not operating on the same system of ethics that, quote unquote normal people are. Like, she's surrounded by alcohol and drug abuse and crime and urban blight and all of the bad shit that comes with it. And so, of course, she's very young. Like, she's clearly supposed to only be probably late teens, early 20s. And her whole life has been this. So she literally doesn't know another way to live at this point. And she's trying to escape this and prevent her sister from living through it the only way she knows how.
Yeah.
There's no other options for her. So... that's where I kind of come down on, like, understanding wanting to work in that little thing about, like, the mother locking her in the trunk and all of that. But the ladybug thing is, like, a step too far for me.
Yes.
Like, it just feels like, I don't know, putting a hat on a hat kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought all the other bits of getting out of the house and going back into the house, I thought were really good.
Yeah.
Like, I think Alex leaving on his own and then coming back on his own was really good. I thought my favorite little bit, which feels very much like a Sam Raimi bit, is when the dog knocks him out of the window and then he lands on top of the skylight, which then breaks and he falls back into the house.
Doesn't the blind guy shoot it? So it crashes underneath him.
If it was a Sam Raimi movie, it would have been like the same shot where Bruce Campbell would go out the window,
Yes.
land on the glass, take a beat to realize the glass is there, and they would fall
It would
through.
fall through, yeah.
But that stuff was good. I thought the stuff inside the house was really well done, like the early stuff where they kind of turn and he's just standing there in the doorway or sitting up in bed. I thought that stuff was great.
Yeah, and there's a certain way when the three of them are first in his house, and they're just sort of moving around it, searching. There's a way that the camera moves with them and around them that's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was really effective because it's sort of this like swooping kind of motion. And it makes you, I kept expecting that as it moved down a hallway or turned around a corner, you were going to see him.
Oh, sure.
Like
yeah.
in your periphery or off to the side. And you never do.
Yeah.
But it's a fun effect. It kind of helps build some tension.
And I thought that stuff was great too because they do a good job of showing you the house. It's very Alien, like the opening scenes from Alien where they're showing you all the bits of the ship.
Yes.
So
yeah.
you would get some sort of geography built into your head.
Here's the door with all the padlocks on it. Here's the room with the tools. Here's the kitchen.
Kind of getting an idea of how the layout is and where the
Yeah.
stairs are and the rooms and stuff.
Yeah.
Basically it's one of those 3D house tours on Zillow.
Yes.
Which we were joking about for like a mid-century 3 and 2. It has quite an extensive duct system.
Spacious.
That you could fit a Rottweiler in.
And an adult woman.
An adult woman.
Yes. Here's a question. So when they first break into the house.
Also, now that house is probably like $800,000.
I bet.
Maybe not in that section of Detroit, but
it depends. When they first break into the house and they're sort of getting everything set up so that they can rummage and search for the money, and money goes into the bedroom and tries to gas the blind man.
Mm-hmm.
Why doesn't it work?
Great question. No idea.
Okay.
He's an Army vet.
I guess is this just an example of his on again, off again superpowers?
I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know what he was using to do that.
I have no idea.
He seemed pretty confident about it.
It sounded like it was something they had done before.
Yeah.
Because when he said it to the others, there was no like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? Like in another movie, if this was like a new thing he was trying, the other characters would have been like, wait, what the fuck is that? What does that even mean? Where are you getting that?
Yeah.
How is that going to work? What are you talking? Like, they would have wanted an explanation. But when he says, oh, yeah, I'll just gas him or whatever, like, everybody's just sort of like, okay, cool.
All of Money's plans seem very untested for the very highly specific situation they're in.
Yes.
Like the gas, and also the idea that shooting a gun into a soda bottle mutes it enough that it won't wake up the person in the house.
Yeah, especially,
like I've seen that done, and like I saw they did that in The Departed and stuff, but like I don't think it's like a silencer where it makes it inaudible.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I think it just makes it sound like less of a gunshot.
Right. Yeah, it's there's some aspects of this movie where I'm like a little bit, once you start thinking about it, it's really easy to poke holes.
Yeah. Also, he's like holding it like an inch from the barrel.
Yeah.
Which I'm pretty sure defeats the entire purpose.
And then when you get to the blind man's plan for, I will just kidnap this woman.
Yeah, how did he get the woman? Like, how did that girl end up at his house?
And how many times did he have to artificially inseminate her before she was actually pregnant?
Yeah.
And then his whole thing was, I'll let her go afterwards.
Yeah.
She's going to give me a child and then I will let her go.
And then that infant child will die in his house.
Even if you let her go, what is to stop her from coming back with the police?
Right.
To rescue the baby she just gave birth to.
Yeah, it's a flawed plan.
Yeah.
But he doesn't seem like he's
But he has enough money
there.
that he could have just adopted a kid.
Yeah, because he's got like $1 million, they say, right? In cash that they steal. Yeah.
I don't know. See, this is the kind of thing once you start thinking about it all kind of
it's
House of Cards style.
Once those questions either matter or they don't.
Right, and then in this movie they clearly don't.
Right. Because the thing I was thinking too is like, if their whole plan was to take their shoes off when they got into the house, why didn't they take their shoes off before they went into the house?
My big question is, I know this man is blind, but he also has a security system. Why wouldn't you assume he has cameras that go to the security Or even the robbery at the beginning in the other house.
Mm-hmm.
Why were they not wearing masks?
That's a good question. Yeah, why are they're doing these break-ins? Well, I mean, I guess you could assume, again, you're having to assume here, that Alex knows the security system, so he must know that there's not cameras. That, like, that security group doesn't use cameras or something.
Maybe. just seems, especially, I wish even in just the first one, they had shown them get into the house and then take them off or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Just feels a little weird to have them be like, yeah, they're burglars, and they just run around with their faces out.
Yeah, that part is odd. The thing, yeah, I think the thing is, though, like, this movie's a good example of, do you want to spend a lot of calories explaining that stuff?
Yeah.
Where it's like, do you need to have a line where they're like, we don't even need masks because there's no cameras in this.
Because this man is blind.
Yeah, or whatever.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. It's the same sort of stuff that if there was too much of it included, I would complain about it.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, this movie is such a good, like, roller coaster that you're not thinking about that stuff. Yeah, sure, you'll think about it when it's over.
Right, or when you're, actively taking notes to record a podcast the next day.
Yes. But yeah, like, I think there are some movies where how the hell did he get this girl could maybe... I guess what I'm saying is if that makes you like the movie less, then I don't think you're focusing on the... I'm not saying this is the royal you I'm talking about, not you specifically.
You can just, insult me deeply and watch me drop my mic and walk off this podcast.
It's on a stand. You can't drop it.
I can try.
That's true.
Tip the whole table over.
But yeah, like I think this is one of those movies where it's like you're locked in.
Yeah.
You're not stopping halfway through to go like, wait, where did he get the girl from? Like you're locked into the whole thing, and you get out the other end, and you once you get off the ride, you start thinking about like, well, wait, all the ghosts, do they live in the house and then they have a jamboree in the cemetery attached to the house? Is that how it works?
Yeah, obviously.
Why are they from, like, how did they get so many ghosts from all around the world that live in this one house in New Orleans or wherever it's supposed to be? Anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think the thing that is really good about the way that they handle the characters and stuff is you get a legitimate sense that nobody is safe.
Oh, yeah.
Like, once Alex gets shot, I think all bets are off. You're like, oh, she might not make it out of this.
Yeah. I mean, I thought the fake out where there's the long fight scene between Alex and the blind man, and then the blind man stabs somebody.
Money.
With shears.
Yeah.
But in the moment, they don't show you that it's money.
Yes, yeah.
They just show the shears going into a body.
Yeah.
And that really convinced, like, I was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, that was really well done.
They just killed him, and that's it. And she's alone in there now. And how the hell is she going to get out of this? And that's not until after she's been trussed up, and it cuts back, and you see the shears sticking out of money, and Alex just sort of, like, stumbling desperately to his feet. And I was like, oh, that was a good fake out. Like, I totally bought it. I was actively like, wait a minute, what the hell? How did they do that?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, yeah, because it was a quick enough shot that was close enough up that you couldn't tell.
And the blind guy's not going to know.
Yeah, he just felt it go into a body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's another really good use of the elastic band kind of thing, because in another movie, once Alex shows up again, he's making it out.
Right.
He avoided death.
Yes.
And now he's there to help her.
Yes.
Very rarely
he's the hero of the story.
Yes.
He's going to save her, and they're going to get out together. Yeah.
Very rarely does that character take one in the back.
Yeah. Yeah, just like open a door and then like blam, and he's dead.
Yeah.
Which was kind of a great way to do that, because it really did take me off guard when he then gets killed for real.
Yeah.
I was really shocked. Like, I figured something else was going to happen because it didn't feel like the movie was slowing down at that point, and just locking the man in the basement did not feel like that was going to stick. But I did not expect them to open the door and him just immediately. I thought they were going to make it like to the car together.
Right.
And then he was going to, track him down or something.
Yeah. Yeah, how did he get out of the handcuffs?
I attribute a lot of the stuff that the blind man is able to do is like, kind of movie style, but he was special forces.
Sure.
It's like he was an Army Ranger. He's prepared for anything.
Yeah,
he can dislocate his thumb and slide it out.
I do like that there is, Fede Alvarez's thing is like, I didn't want any supernatural stuff in this. It's like, well, we're bending the laws of physics a bit here.
Yes.
A couple times.
Yeah.
Based on how quickly this guy can get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
With a Myers-like efficiency.
Yes. Nearly teleportation level powers.
Yeah. But it all works really well.
Yeah.
I love the dog in the duct sequence. That's insane.
Yeah.
Like that's what I really like about this movie is it kind of it presents you with the framework of something that you've seen before that is familiar. And you're kind of like you kind of have an idea of where the walls are. And then literally and figuratively, and then he just kind of like blows through the wall. So it's like, okay, they knock the dog out, traps the dog in the wall. Up, the dog is loose. Not only does the dog knock the one guy out the window, he jumps into the duct. And is now tracking her down like the alien. From Alien. And I would love to say both of these Alien references are on purpose because Fede Alvarez's next movie is Alien Romulus.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
It just happens to be a coincidence.
Well, it's good choice to have him do an Alien movie then.
Yeah. Did you think she was dead when she fell and like landed on her head?
I knew in my head she wasn't, but my knee-jerk reaction was that woman just broke her neck.
Oh yeah.
Like there is something so unnatural and awful about the way she lands when she falls that I cringed, but I knew we hadn't seen that shot from the beginning of him dragging her down the street.
Right.
So I kept waiting for that to come.
Yeah.
Which was, again, part of the reason why, as much as I like that shot conceptually, I do think it takes something away from the rest of the movie.
It's like the first shot in Predator. When the first shot in Predator is the ship going onto Earth.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't need that. It's so much cooler if it's just like a bunch of commandos in the woods, in the jungle, and then an alien shows up.
Yep.
I think they do something similar in The Thing, which I don't like either.
I think there's
the first shot is
like a
also
meteor or something crashing. Yeah.
Again, it's like, that's...
Yeah, you just kind of don't need it.
People know why they're there.
Yes.
And if they don't, that's even better.
Yeah.
Like you don't have the first shot of From Dusk Till Dawn isn't a vampire bat or something,
That would be really silly.
What's your read on From Dusk? You've seen From Dusk Till Dawn?
I have not for a long time. That's the one with
George Clooney
and Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
And their brothers, and they're in the strip club.
Mm-hmm.
I like that movie.
Yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
A lot of people don't like it specifically because of the turn in the middle, but I always thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Because there's it does not hint at all.
Yeah.
That it's a vampire movie until it becomes a vampire movie.
And similarly, it actually kind of in a way does a similar thing to this movie where you start off with a couple people you think are bad guys and criminals, and then halfway through the movie, you're like, oh shit, now I'm rooting for them.
That's true. That's a good point.
Now I don't want them to die because they're the only way anyone's getting out of this alive.
Yeah. Why doesn't that bother me in that movie? Not that it bothers me in this movie. I think it's because in From Dusk Till Dawn, it's like there's not this larger sense that George Clooney is like a good dude. I mean, I guess they kind of, he's doing the thing where he's trying to get over the border with money so he can get away, and
he is less violent than Quentin Tarantino by levels, like many exponential grades. Because don't they leave? He leaves.
Oh yeah,
him alone with a girl and
murders the girl.
He just murders her for no reason whatever.
He's like George Clooney, I guess, is like a bull, and maybe that's what is the key.
Like a bull.
Well, yes, he's likable in a china shop.
Yes.
Nowhere else though. And not that she's not I think she's decently likable, but I think we're talking about a movie we didn't watch. George Clooney's inherent charisma is to From Dusk Till Dawn what the backstory about the sister is to this movie.
Yes, it does the work of making you want him to survive. Yeah.
I love the night vision sequence.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up how I actually think all of the like physical confrontations and fight scenes between the characters in this movie are like excellent and really, really brutal.
Yeah.
The punches to the face, man.
Yeah.
are,
Of
like,
all the shit in this movie, those like dull sounding face punches.
just sharp jabs
Yeah.
straight to the bridge of the nose. It's like, oh, that in the scene where he, I mean, honestly, both of the scenes where the blind man beats the shit out of Alex in the utility room, and then later on the scene where it's just him and Rocky and he like chokes her out.
Yeah.
Those are really intense, and I think part of it is because that kind of violence is so realistic.
Yes.
And it's I don't know, I think we see gun violence in movies and TV shows so often that we just, at least I personally think of it as like theatrical violence. I have not encountered real life gun violence in my life, thank God, knock on all the wood. But like I've seen physical fights and like that feels much more immediate. Like that feels, I don't know, there's just something so just like physical and brutal about it.
Yeah.
It's really well done.
Yeah. I think because it's not, thunderous punching noises and Rocky style punch. It's a very
or Marvel style punches.
Yeah,
where
it's a very
superhero
realistic
doing something. Yeah,
it's like the guy who lives next door punching your brother in the face.
But yeah, the scene in the basement where it's in the darkness and they're kind of having to play like the worst game of hide and seek ever conceived is really effective.
Yeah.
I like, for a second thought, is this going on too long? And then there was the scene where you almost think that Alex just gets killed.
Yeah.
There was the moment there where I was like, oh, fuck. Okay. Like got me back in.
Another one that was a surprising death is the girl, the pregnant girl.
Yes.
Where they, that is another thing where it's like they free her from the thing, but never take the mask off so she can talk.
Well, she doesn't even try and do it herself.
Yeah. Maybe it's probably locked on.
Honestly, if I were her, I'd be like, he has super hearing. I would rather leave it on.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to have him, because the movie is called Don't Breathe. I don't want him to hear me breathe. Maybe this will help muffle me. Maybe I can escape.
Also, another thing that's kind of, if you want to think about it, it doesn't make a lot of sense, is the fact that when they find that girl, she's like, no, hold on.
Yes.
And goes to get the newspaper clipping that explains who she is.
Yes. Like, I am this person.
Yeah. But yeah, she, again, that's a thing, like a girl being locked up in the basement who's pregnant with this guy who just gets shot in the face.
Yeah.
Like that, you don't see that very often.
There's a lot of getting shot in the face in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's talk about what everybody's interested in.
You fucking perverts.
How did you feel at the reveal of the his impregnation strategy?
How many GIFs of somebody trying not to vomit did I send you? Like 17?
Yes.
I mean, it's pretty fucking gross. I don't really know how to describe it other than that. I could keep going in stronger terms, which involve a lot of cussing. But it's effective.
Yeah.
And it brings a different type of horror into this movie where it's not just the kind of jump scare or I'm gonna get killed by this psycho murderer thing. It's a different level of fear. It's a different type of fear. It's much more like psychological and emotional at the idea of this man treating these young women like they are, I don't know, like they owe him something. And that he gets to decide what happens to their bodies.
Yeah.
And there's even a moment where he says to Rocky, 9 months and then I'll give you your life back.
Yeah. And also he makes it clear he's not a rapist.
He's not a rapist. I never forced myself on her. It's like, I would disagree. This is kind of that. Because, as they say, rape is really about power.
Yeah.
And what is this if not the ultimate display of power? I'm going to get what I want. I'm going to get it from you and I don't care what you think.
Right.
And the whole I'll give you back your life line is like, well, who are you to give me anything? It's my life. It's already mine.
Right.
But it's such a like viscerally horrifying sequence, I think, especially probably if you're a woman. I'm sure plenty of dudes out there were also like cringing and thought it was disgusting.
Gross. Yeah. I know that this guy has the Sam Raimi in him because of that one close up you get that has the hair in it. It's like that's the just over the top thing where it's like, this is gross enough.
Yes.
What will make it grosser? Let's drop a hair in there.
Yep. Yeah, because then this is just because this is a blind man. He's not doing this in a sanitary way.
No.
And it's kind of this ultimate violation of like, I'm just going to do whatever I want with you. And it's going to be the most disgusting thing you could imagine. And I think the actress does a really great job of sort of amping up her level of fear in that sequence. And then I do think it kind of ratchets her up to 11 for the rest of the movie. Like, the stakes have gone from this violent, crazy man is after me because I have stolen his money and also freed his enslaved basement girl to, oh no, he wants to make me the enslaved basement girl. Like, that's another level. And like, you know, Rocky knows nobody in her life is going to come looking for her.
Right. Yeah.
Like, Money is dead. If she's caught, Alex is going to be dead. And then also Alex does end up dead. So she, you know, her parent, her mother is not going to come looking for her. And her sister is a child. She doesn't understand what's going on. So it's like, if this man takes me and does this to me, I'm not getting out of here. Even if he says, oh, I'll let you go afterwards. Probably not.
Yeah, doubtful.
Doubtful that he would actually follow through with that, because she could go to the police and like whatever baby she had would be 50% hers. And if she could prove that he essentially, as he would argue, he would say he didn't, but he did rape her and forced this on her, she could take it. He'd go to prison. She'd take the kid. He'd never see the kid again. It would defeat the whole purpose. Yeah. So there was no way she was going to make it out of that basement.
If he had been being practical, he would have been like, it'll just be like 18 years and then you can have your life back. Because I'm blind. I can't raise this kid. What do you want from me, lady?
Lady.
It's
I also appreciate that, like, when he cuts her clothes open, there's nothing sexy about it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not sexualized in any way. It's not supposed to be titillating or like tantalizing. It's just supposed to be horrific.
Yeah.
Which I appreciated.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, like, I know, like, when
I know what you're saying, but I'm like, I can't imagine a way where that would be, that anything in that sequence would be sexy.
Well, like when we did The Last House on the Left.
Oh, sure.
For our Video Nasties Patreon coverage. Some of that is shot in a way that is supposed to sort of emphasize these beautiful nymph-like girls being assaulted. And it's kind of gross. It leaves kind of and I think it's supposed to be gross. Like, it's supposed to make you feel gross. But at the same time, it's one of those reasons why in a lot of these types of home invasion movies, especially when a woman is involved and there is that kind of threat of sexual assault or rape, I tend to avoid it.
Sure.
Because I hate it when it's played as kind of hot.
Yeah.
You know, or it's supposed to be like, ooh, look at her in her lingerie. Like, you can see her like lacy bra or whatever. Like, this is not that.
Sorry, what movie is this? Can I write it down?
This is not that. This is like very utilitarian, and he has set this up like just like a contraption, like you would inseminate an animal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think part of it is because he is blind. Like, he doesn't care. He's not in it for, there is not a sexual gratification for him out of this.
Right.
And I'm glad the movie handles it in that way too.
Yeah. It's a big turn.
Yeah, it is.
Like, the girl in the basement is intense enough, but like this other thing is like, this is a lot.
Yeah.
And as you're saying, it adds this extra element of like bodily autonomy to it, to the horror and stuff, which is very effective.
Yeah.
But I can't, part of me can't help but see it as like needing to ratchet up why this guy is awful. And I don't know if I think it's effective. I think it's pretty good. I don't know if you necessarily need it.
I mean, I will say it has definitely made me it will make me remember this movie.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Amongst all the others. It will definitely make it stand out in my mind.
Yeah. The one thing that I think is really great in this, and I think is very important to making this movie work, is Stephen Lang, who plays the blind guy, never plays him like a monster. Like, he always plays him as a sympathetic, he is the sympathetic character.
Yeah.
Like, even when he's talking to her about the insemination and he's like sad. He's like, this girl took my daughter from me. All I wanted was my daughter back.
And she was pregnant and I was
going to killed her. So like, he never loses that.
Yeah.
Even at the end, like when they chain him up, he's just like, just take the money and go.
Yeah.
Like, he's not like, I'm going to get you.
He does yell, "Get out of my house," in kind of a scary way.
Sure, but that's like defensive.
Yeah.
Like,
and like kind of defeated.
Yeah.
Like, you've done it, you've beaten me.
There's no
You've
point
ruined
where,
my life again. Please get the fuck out.
There's no point where he like turns into a demon.
Right. And I think that is, I think you're totally right. I think that's one reason why he remains a compelling presence in the movie is that he's never reduced to just like violent for violence sake. And it's so clear, like Stephen Lang plays him in such a way where it becomes so clear that he really thinks that what he is doing is just.
Yeah.
Like that, like he is a man who has definitely lost his mind.
Yeah. That's the word I was looking for. Not sympathized so much as justified.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he thinks he is justified in everything that he is doing.
But even so, he's not doing it like, he's not like Lex Luthor, where he's like, the world owes me. No, he's very,
getting no pleasure from it.
Yeah.
He just wants a certain end result, and kind of like he says, I'm just tired of waiting.
Yeah.
Like, I want my child and I'm sick of waiting. Like, I have waited long enough. Still super fucked up.
Yes. Well, they made a sequel to this that came out a couple years ago. I have not seen it, but having read the synopsis,
why?
It seems like a gross misreading of his own movie.
Oh no!
Because the plot of the second one seems to be that the blind guy, not in jail for what he had done, finds this orphaned girl that he like imprints on, like a young girl, and then a bunch of, I don't know, let's say thugs, for lack of a better movie term,
sure,
like kidnap her and whatever, and so now it's like a revenge movie where the blind guy has to go save his
like adopted daughter.
And it's like, did you watch your own movie?
Right,
like, why are you turning this guy into a hero?
Yeah, what?
To be fair, haven't seen it.
Yeah.
I don't know if maybe they crossed that bridge as far as his history with women and keeping them in his house.
His history with believing that women aren't actually people.
Maybe there's a scene where the girl's in the basement using that harness like a swing. I don't know.
Oh my God.
Just having a good time.
That's dark as fuck.
It is. I don't know, but based on the synopsis, I'm like, I kind of feel like you're missing the point of your own movie here.
Yeah, that does sound like it was just like, yeah, we'll do this now.
And like, if they don't do, so I think it's a weird toss up, right? Because like, if you don't do, I think even if it was just the girl in the basement, it's not as bad to do this in the second one than it is if you do the impregnation thing. Like, the girl in the basement's still pretty bad.
Yeah, I don't know how.
You could at least, if you really wanted to, be like, okay, some sort of justice. This girl killed his daughter. It's fucked up. It's not right, but it's like some sort of weird vigilante thing.
I still don't buy it.
Oh, I don't either. But I'm saying, like, if you really want to do it, you could.
Okay.
Once you add in this whole impregnating her, I think that's really tough to come back from that.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like this movie and this character, the blind man, it's interesting that like he can be read as pretty sympathetic in a lot of ways, and then he can also be read as deeply misogynistic.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, even his daughter, it's like, okay, but like I get that you're in deep grief over losing her, but like, what are you gonna do with a new daughter?
Right.
Why are you so fixated on a new daughter?
Yeah.
Is it just that like you? I don't know. It's like I'm just gonna use these women's bodies to make me a small woman. there's a weird set of assumptions and beliefs built into that character that I actually am glad this movie doesn't go deeper into.
Listen,
like
I'm
glad that he is just sort of baseline misogynist in this really unconscious way that's almost like beside the point.
Yeah.
Because that feels more natural to me than if this became some big like feminist brouhaha where like she defeated him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, all I'm saying is like your dog dies, you want another dog. Sometimes you go to a breeder and not to the pound. Right?
Nope. Not comparable.
Do you like the kind of unresolved nature of the ending?
Not really.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like he should have died.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of the better way to wrap this up.
I guess if you talking about the lack of morality, if you want to find a weird morality or like, justice, the fact that she gets away and he also gets away is kind of weirdly justified.
Yeah. Yeah, if they're both gray characters or this movie is trying to sort of portray them as both bad and also sympathetic at the same time.
Yeah.
I guess you could argue that in the morality of this film, Rocky is weighted as better than him because not only does she live through it, but she gets the money and she gets to fulfill her dream and her life improves after this.
Right.
Whereas if you look at what happens to the blind man, he might survive this, but his life is not better. He's had his money stolen from him. His slave incubator is dead. And now what the fuck is he going to do? Yeah. So, yeah, by this sort of like very non-traditional morality of this movie, I guess that's kind of how you have to end it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it does feel weird to have this like, I don't know, this like pointed mention that he made it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just feels strange. It feels a little bit like they intentionally were leaving it open for a sequel.
Yeah. I'm surprised the sequel wasn't like he captures a Girl Scout or something trying to sell cookies at the house. I don't know. It's still so strange that they turn him into like a weird, hero or something. But
yeah, or a movie where, maybe it's 10 or 12 years down the line and he's somehow succeeded in securing himself a daughter.
Yeah.
And as she gets older, she starts learning shit about her dad that she doesn't like.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, take it from there and then have something else happen.
Yeah.
But have something more of like, oh no, I'm realizing that my dad is a really bad person. The fuck am I going to do? How do I get away from him?
Maybe his new daughter is the barbarian monster.
Maybe we just link all of the filmed in Detroit horror
is it
movies
the same
of the
street?
last, like,
is it all
10
the same
years.
street?
It feels like it. Even the exteriors kind of feel like it.
Yeah,
yeah,
they do.
Yeah.
Oh, poor Detroit.
I will also say I really like how this movie is scored.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's done. The music's very good. I don't have in front of me who did the music because I'm a bad person. But
if that's all it takes to make you a bad person, I am a horrible one. Put me in this movie. My morality is so bad.
Yeah, I think that's going to do it for Don't Breathe.
You can breathe now.
You can breathe now if you are still alive.
If you haven't passed out while washing your dishes or doing your laundry or whatever you do when you listen to this.
And if you are not still alive, if you have held your breath too long, please let your lawyer know that listening to this is signing a waiver with your ears. So
go back one episode and find the Talk to Me hand and tell us what the afterlife is like.
But thank you guys for listening. We're going to hit the randomizer button. Boop, 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 boop. We're staying in the 21st century with number 156, which actually the first time, I'll be honest, the first time I did it, it did bring up Barbarian. And I was like, I think we need a little bit of space.
Sure.
We're doing number 156, which is Slither. Have you ever seen Slither?
No.
It's one of James Gunn's first movies.
Oh.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it.
I'm excited.
But thank you guys for listening. If you want to help support the show, head over to patreon.com/thepensky file and follow along. with Amanda and myself as we cover the Halloween series.
Yay!
And we have just done Halloween 4 in April.
Yes, indeed.
May will be Halloween 5. And for the rest of the year, it will be Clay getting more and more depressed that we have to keep watching these Halloween movies.
Yay!
Amanda has finally gotten revenge on me.
It's my year.
I'm just going to be bitching about the mask for the next 8 months.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. Thank you guys again. And thank you, Amanda.
Thank you, Clay.
We'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.